Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of Noel Burke, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Well known for several things. His first band was St. Vitus Dance, who released the album Love Me, Love My Dogma. And then in the late 80s, early 90s, he then became the lead singer with Echo and the Bunnymen and released the album Reverberation, which came out in 1990, but has also, St. Vitus Dance have reformed and have got various live shows that are coming up, which I'll put in the notes below so you'll be able to click on there. I think mostly it's their Facebook page, which is the go-to site for any more information. But anyway, this is the interview with Noel. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Noel, it's over to you.
Well, I'd say probably, I was always interested in pop music around that time, but I wasn't in the stage of buying records. At that stage, I left it to my older brother and sister. And by the time I had enough pocket money to actually buy records myself, you're talking about 1977 probably, really.
Right, yes.
So I was probably about 15 then, really. And the first record single that I bought was Watching the Detectives by Elvis Costello. And my first album, and it sounds a really trendy thing to say, but it was Marquee Moon by Television.
Blimey, that was you were going straight in for the. But I suppose mine was Changes One Bowie, so that was quite lucky. I do remember it seemed to take forever if you wanted to buy a record. You had to save up pocket money, which was
it, yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of pocket money, so it was a long period. And I think singles in my day were like 60 or 70 pence, and so it was quite the big investment. So yeah, that was interesting actually. My second one was Rod Stewart's Sailing, which is a bit embarrassing, but followed by there was a TV series about the Navy, and it seemed to be the soundtrack actually at that time.
Oh, I seem to remember that, yeah.
Blondie's Denis, which was just awesome. So there you go. So did you say you had older brothers or sisters that gave you some musical direction?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were always like Beatles records in the house, and my brother was into heavier rock, kind of blues rock, Led Zeppelin, Rory Gallagher, things like that. My sister was more into, the sensitive singer-songwriter type, the James Taylor type thing.
Oh, nice.
So it was, I suppose it was kind of something for me to rebel against, really. You don't want to be into what your older brother and sister are into. You want to have your own thing. So when punk came around, it was ideal, really, because my brother and sister both hated it.
I would imagine.
Yeah, so it was ideal, really.
Yes, I think you're slightly older than me, aren't you, by a couple of years? Yes, I was a little bit, I have to confess, I lived in a village in the countryside, thinking this is the 70s, by the way, which is quite different. And there was not much access to culture. And I was at that age in 77. I didn't feel it wasn't something that was on the radar. And even if you were curious, there was no way of just being able to access many of the records. But I wasn't that curious as well. In 77, it was still. But I did have an older brother. It was interesting. You said you rebelled, because my older brother, I was like a bit enamored, and I thought he was wonderful. So I kind of was excited by his record collection, which was prog rock, actually, with Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah, my brother had that as well, yeah.
Yeah, so there was that, as well as the charts, which at that time was quite exciting, really. And did your parents, did you say your parents were musical at all?
Well, my mother's from a very musical family, but on the Irish traditional side.
Right.
My grandfather was a songwriter. He wrote poems and songs, but all very of the folk type. And her brothers were, fiddlers and ceilidh bands and singers and all sorts. I had a cousin who was a folk guitarist. He played, what I called Artie McGlynn. He played guitar with Van Morrison for a while, but he's more well known in folk circles as a guitarist.
Right, my God.
Sadly left us a couple of years ago.
But to be honest, that's an impressive, yes, family tradition you've got there that encouraged one. Did just because I was a bit obsessed during the 70s with football, did football come onto your radar at all during that period?
Oh, totally. I mean, my first love was football. I was into football way before I was into music.
Yes. Because it might sound weird, but it was all about George Best for me and Man United at that stage. I didn't realise that when I started supporting Man United, they were absolutely dreadful and struggled one season, then got relegated the second season.
Yeah.
And by then, but I just kept hearing, as you can tell, I was only probably 6 or 7. I kept hearing this name, George Best, and people go, oh, Georgie Best. And then, and you see little glimpses of George and think, I even bought some stylo football boots for Christmas, got some George Best. So that was it.
I did see George Best actually play once. At Windsor Park in one of the home internationals, Northern Ireland against England. And it was that famous game where he knocked the ball out of Gordon Banks' hands when he was about to take a goal kick and headed into the net, but it was disallowed wrongly.
Yes, absolutely, very wrong. I know Gordon waving his hands in the air.
Yeah.
I know, Georgie. I know there's a lovely bit of clip of George. I think it was against Russia. You can see him sort of weaving his magic all over the place. It was just, it was poetry, really.
He's a special player, all right.
Very special. So then when you got to 16, then, I'm having to do the maths here quite a lot, aren't I? That was 78.
Yeah.
So did you leave school at that stage or did you stay on?
No, I stayed on, yeah.
And had you been to any live gigs by then?
A few, yes. Who did I say earlier on? The Buzzcocks and... Susie and the Banshees, a couple of others. I'm not too sure. A bit later on, then it was funny enough the Bunnymen and the Comstock Angels and people like that. But we're talking into the early 80s then, probably. Yeah.
Right, that sort of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose there was punk, and then there was a bit of a post-punk world, and there was bands like. I suppose, there was Julian.
There weren't an awful lot of bands came to Belfast in those days. It was the time of the Troubles, and I think a lot of bands were put off coming, but there was the odd gig,
Yes, Belfast was on the news a lot. What was it like living in Belfast at that stage?
It's weird because for me at the time it seemed normal, because I think I was probably like 7 when the Troubles started, really, and I had no real memory of anything else, so the occasional bomb scare or, and all the stuff that you were hearing on the news, it was just, I suppose, you become inured to it, really. And it was only when I moved over here that I thought, wow, this isn't normal. I moved over here to Liverpool in 1987, and it was then it kind of hit me that life isn't always like that. When you walk into a shop, you don't have to lift your arms to get frisked and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
It was only then really when it dawned on me that what a strange existence I've been living up to then,
Yes, because there was a constant news about H Block, wasn't there, and the dirty protests, and there was also Bobby Sands as well at that point as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So did that all come on your radar at that point? Or?
Oh yeah, you were aware of it, yeah, totally, and it was a fact of life, really. It was a constant drama, really.
Yes.
But but in the middle of that, you just got on with things. You went to school, I went to university. You went out at night, you went into town, you went to see bands, and I played in a band in Belfast, and. So in many ways it was normal, and you did all the things that people probably did over here, as well. So it was a bit of a mixture, really.
Yes, absolutely. So you did your A levels, and then what university did you go to at that stage?
I stayed local. I went to Queen's University in Belfast.
Right. What were you studying?
History and politics.
Fantastic. So then that takes you up to sort of, I don't know, 80, 83, 84, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So then so are you in bands at this stage?
Oh, yes. I'd started a band. Well, I was in a band while I was at school. but I was a bass player in that band, a band called Positive Action.
Right.
And then I played bass in that, and I was sacked because I was rubbish, deservedly sacked. And then when we all finished our A-levels, that band broke up completely, because some of them were going to university in Dublin, some of them were staying in Belfast, so that they just, disbanded. And the drummer from that band, Pete, he said to me, "Why don't you start a band with you being singer instead of playing bass?" And I'd never even thought about it before. So that summer, when I finished my A-levels, I started getting the band together, which was sort of finally got it together about September of 81. And that was in Vitus Dance. And we played from them under different lineups right up until we left Belfast in 1987. So all
Right.
the university years, yeah.
Yes. So did you say there was quite a lot of lineup changes at that stage?
Oh, yes. There were only 3 of us who were like constants, and that was Pete Hesketh, the drummer, Hayden Boyle, the keyboard player, and myself. And we've had different bass players and guitarists. One of the guitarists who was in the band, Kevin O'Neill, at the very start, he's in the band now. It's very, very complicated, but yeah.
Yes, we need a Pete Frame family tree here, don't we, really?
Oh, at least, yes, it would be.
So at that stage, did you record any material during the early 80s, or was that a little bit towards the 86, 87 time when
Only
the band...
really at the end, yeah. Basically, all we'd had to show for our efforts was one flexi disc that came free with the local fanzine. And it was only in late 86, early 87 that we made the contact with Probe Records in Liverpool, and they offered to put an album out for us.
That's fantastic. Flexi disc. This is excellent, isn't it, rather? So did you share that with Blah, Blah, Blah?
That's right, yeah.
Right.
That's very well, yeah. That's right, yeah.
And the song is called Meet Mohammed.
Meet Mohammed, that's right, yeah.
Fantastic. So you were the songwriter at this stage?
I wrote that song, yeah. There were a couple of us writing songs at that stage, a few of us chipping in. But I was writing most of the stuff, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes. And had you built up a cult following in Belfast?
By the end, it was getting quite healthy, yeah. Especially when we put the record out that summer of 87. We were like, getting a couple of hundred in at gigs, and it was selling out gigs and things like that. It was getting quite lively, and then that's when we made the decision to leave and move to Liverpool, which is probably not the wisest thing to do, but yeah.
Yes, well, it was the sort of thing. I'm always amazed with the Australian and New Zealand bands who, during that period, would sort of, they had the band, they were doing quite well, but then they would relocate to the other side of the world to do their thing, like the Triffids or the Chills or the Go-Betweens. And I thought, God, that is a sense of adventure at that stage. So you're in Belfast. Had you finished university at this stage and were just kind of working but having the band as a side hustle?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So how did you manage to persuade everyone, look, I've got a great idea, and they go, oh God, he wants to make a jazz fusion album? He go, no, let's move to Liverpool. I mean, what was that moment?
I think everybody, well, the bass player that we had at the time, he hadn't finished his degree, so he didn't go. And that was always a problem for us, because we had kind of peripatetic bass players for about a year after that. We never got a settled one up until nearly when we broke up, really. So that was a little bit of a problem. But the rest of them were all quite happy, apart from Phil, who's the guitarist and still is. He's actually from Liverpool and was at university in Belfast, so he wasn't too keen on going back home. But he did it. But the rest of them were all quite happy to go, really. Yeah, it was a bit of an adventure for them too.
And was it, by memory, and this is a long time, was it Jeff at Pro Plus? Who was the guy who... Right, it was Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh, there seemed to be a lot of people called Jeff running labels at that stage, weren't there? Or PR companies. Yes. So did you badger him, or did you have any other interests, like from other labels, like, I don't know, Rough Trade or Creation? Was it
No. It's weird. I was talking about the bass player who didn't come over. Well, ironically, it was him. he had a Morris Mulvena, his name was. He had a sister who was at university in Liverpool, and he was over visiting her, and we'd done just a demo tape. And while he was over there, he went into Probe and went to see Jeff and handed it in. And Jeff listened to it then and there offered him an album deal.
Right.
So that's how it happened. It was as quick as that. So we'd never even sent any demo tapes to any other labels before that. We never even thought about it. And, you know, he did this off his own bat. It was a total surprise to us when he came back to Belfast and says that we're going to have a record out. It was, you know, from the blue, you know.
Because at that stage, they'd done Half Man, Half Biscuit was their big thing, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, they were at their peak at that stage, yeah.
Yes, I think they had the Trumpton riots and back in the DHSS, hadn't they? So that was...
Yeah.
And John Peel loved them. Did you get any... Oh, who was that? Oh, God, there's another Belfast band who... Because the Tube, who was that sort of Friday evening... show which was broadcast from Newcastle, they did one on Belfast, didn't they?
Yes.
And when I watched it, there was a band who did Uncle John's cousin or uncle, God, Cruella de Vil.
Cruella de Vil, yes, yeah. I think all those bands were signed to majors that were on that,
right?
Yeah.
Can you remember that episode where they...
I do, yes. Now that you mention it, I do. Yeah, there was another band called Perfect Crime. Guy called Gregory Gray was the singer. And they were signed, I think they only ever to a major, but they only think they ever put one single out. And there were a few other bands got signed around that time. A band called Silent Running were another one. But Cruella de Vil, yeah, I remember them. Yeah.
Did you sort of have a bit of a community of bands and, yeah, you know, to do with, I don't know, rehearsal space or studio space? Did you sort of, or sharing the same pubs and sort of venues? Was there...
Yeah, there was a band called, there were a couple of bands from Derry, one called Ty the Boy, they'd moved to Belfast. A band called Kitches Rich, who again from Derry and moved to Belfast. Another band called Bam Bam and the Calling, who were from Derry, but they didn't move to Belfast, but they played quite a few gigs there as well. There was another band from Belfast called the Donnelly Brothers, and a few others as well, but we all played the same venues and we all hung out in the same pub, Lavery's, in the centre of Belfast.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was there was a bit of a scene, I suppose, going on. And, you know, the band Ty the Boy I mentioned earlier on, that the guitarist from them and sometime vocalist was Peter Kuna, who went on to D-Ream.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
My God, D-Ream. Yeah, Tiger Boy. Blimey. I'm not sure about that name.
No, Ty the Boy.
Oh, Ty the Boy.
Yeah.
That's even worse.
Well, I'm saying nothing.
No, God. Oh, I'll edit that bit out. No, I won't. But Ty. Oh, I thought it was Tiger, but Ty the Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you'd get away with that name, would you?
Probably not.
So, yeah, I don't know. You wouldn't want to buy your merchandise, would you, with that name?
Yeah, you may get some funny looks.
Yeah. You'd get some, depend. Yeah, so look, so you all trundle over. Do you go on the ferry over to Liverpool?
Yes. The ferry at that stage, yeah. It was at that stage. It was cheaper to get the ferry. It's not anymore. And
then no, I bet not. Did you all have a place to sort of hang out, or sort of go in a bed sit, or how did you manage to sort of live in that period?
We all just got flat. I stayed with Jeff Davis for about 2 weeks until I was able to sort myself a flat out. Although I knew somebody who was living in a shared house, and they knew that there was a vacancy coming up pretty quickly. So I stayed in Jeff's until a vacancy came through, and then I moved in.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And at that point, with the record, which comes out in 87, which is almost the best year of music ever, I'd almost, if I was being very, I don't know, sloppy or whatever, I would say it was a great year for music, 87. Was that album recorded in Liverpool?
It was. No, it was recorded in Belfast or just outside Belfast. And then it was mixed in Liverpool. Yeah.
Right. And so did it take long to write all the sort of tracks for it?
It's weird. Some of the songs dated back. A couple of the songs dated back to right at the start when we'd started off, and then. But I'd say most of the songs were probably written in about the 5 or 6 months before we recorded the album. The later
Did you
ones.
feel like that period, that sort of 80, 85, 84 to 85 on to 87, it was kind of a glorious year for indie pop period for indie pop music, really, wasn't
yeah,
it?
it was. Yeah, definitely.
Did you feel that this was the big moment that things were going to happen?
Well, I think that was probably one of the things that influenced us to move over to England. Really, it was. We just thought that Belfast was a kind of limiting scene, and that we weren't going to get, you could only play the same venues, once every couple of months, and whereas if you were in England, there were a lot more places,
Yes.
you could travel around to and play in,
I think that period there was a lot of, I mean, I don't say this every time, but there was every town had an indie night, didn't they, or alternative night of some description. Like every town or city. So, and you could most people could get a bit of almost call it a tour, couldn't they? As long as they got the transit van and went on the road, you could sort of hit all those places. I mean, Norwich has one, Brighton, Leeds, Glasgow, Manchester,
Yeah.
they're all there, Bristol. I won't go around every capital town in England and Britain. But anyway, you get the gist. So the album comes out on Pro Plus. What was the response like at that point?
It was locally in Belfast. It was great. I mean, we sold an awful lot in the first couple of weeks. We even made the local charts. Went straight in at number 13 on the Northern Ireland charts. But nationally, although it was well reviewed in the music press, it didn't get much airplay at all. Peel didn't pick it up, or any of the Radio 1 DJs. So it kind of. We didn't have a single of it at all. It was just the album, so maybe that wasn't a great idea. But
yes. And whose idea was the cover, by the way?
Well, the cover was, it depends which one if you're talking about the CD cover.
I'm talking the one with the Lucozade at the front.
Oh, right. That was, my dad was a pharmacist, and it was his first shop window display.
Right. And you said that.
I was just looking through some old photographs and I just liked the look of it. But we changed it for the reissue of the CD. We put a photograph that's on the back of it, which is of a sort of homeless guy standing in front of a sort of like a fire and brimstone preacher in the centre of Belfast.
Yes.
That we actually, over the years, we thought that would probably have been a better album cover, because it kind of fitted the title of Me Love My Dogma as well better. So
yes,
hindsight, we thought. So when it came time to issue on CD, we flipped it around and put the photograph on the back on the front.
It's quite tricky though, isn't it? Because you've got that shop called Options, which is quite prominent. Then you've got God Now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. And so there's, so putting the band and the title of the album, there was going to be a lot of type within there, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Design is so tricky, isn't it? But anyway, did you then, so at that point, did you then get a tour sorted out and lined up?
No, when we put the album out, what we did was, let's see now, we played a couple of gigs around Liverpool. We played Liverpool itself, and we played a gig in Birkenhead.
Did you play the Broadwalk?
In Manchester?
Yes.
We did later on, once we'd moved over. We did. We played a gig there with a band from Dublin called the Stars of Heaven.
Right.
We were on Rough Trade, kind of countryish band. That was probably about 88. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. So the band was still going and you were still living in Liverpool in 88?
Yeah.
And then what's your next move at this stage? Because as you can see, you got the single. Is it Rubble Every Time?
No, that was never a single. We recorded that and about 3 other songs in Liverpool. That was, supposedly the start of the second album.
Right.
because we got a bit of publishing money and we used that to record those 4 songs.
Yes.
And then 3 of them are on the CD reissue. One of them we couldn't find a mix of for some reason. But and then after that, then people started to get restless. One of the guitarists left to go back home. I think the keyboard player got a job, and then it was really difficult to practice, and interest just dropped. And then the drummer went home. And that was it. And I decided I better get myself a job, because we were. I don't blame anybody for it, because we're all really broke.
Yes.
So it was tough times, and we weren't getting gigs to, and we couldn't afford to pay for rehearsal space. It was getting tough,
Yes. On the publishing front, because it's always curious, the music industry, isn't it? Business. I know it's a dirty word, but how does that work then? Do they say, look, here's some money, we'll buy your catalogue, or we'll own the music that we could use?
It was weird, because it wasn't even, I think it was a contact that Jeff Davis had. And it was a guy who he didn't pay for any ownership of the publishing. He just sort of gave us an advance. And then didn't take it up, so we got something like £500, but they never took up the option to sign us to a proper publishing deal, so nothing came of it really in the end.
That's such a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of money around in those days.
Yeah, and then so that's kind of 88. So the band have left you in Liverpool. So what do you? What's your next kind of moment at that point?
Well, I was kind of at a loss. I got a job. I worked in a bookshop. I got a job working in a bookshop, and I didn't do anything musically for about nearly a year. And that was when Jeff Davis phoned me up and said, "I've just had Will Sargent in here. They're looking for a new singer, and I gave him your LP along with a few others, so you might be hearing from him."
Yes.
So, but I thought, oh, right, okay. But I didn't think too much of it. And then I didn't hear anything for quite a few months. And so I just forgot about it. And then Jeff phoned me again, and he said, oh, Will Sargent's been in again. And he's listened to the album, and he was asking me questions about you. So, okay. So I've told him where you work. So okay. So I think you'll be in either to speak to you, or, so if you see him walking around the bookshop, don't be surprised.
Right.
So
he's not shoplifting. He's just he's just stalking you.
The weird thing it was a Waterstones bookshop, and I was working upstairs, and my girlfriend at the time, Helen, who's now my wife, she was working downstairs.
Right.
And I'd obviously told her about this, and I was sitting upstairs at the till, and she rings me on the the internal phone, and says, I think Will Sargent's in here. There's a couple of them in here. There's a couple other fellas with him, and I said, oh, right, okay. So I waited, and then finally they came upstairs, and they pretended to look around at the books, but they were obviously checking me out, and then, but they didn't say anything. They never said anything to me at this stage. Then they went out, and I didn't know really what to think. And then the next thing was Jake, who was the keyboards player in the Bunnymen. He got in touch with me, phoned me, and said that we want to meet up. So we met up for a couple of pints, and arranged that I would practice with him.
Right.
We work out, yeah. And just,
yes.
Was it really?
Did it feel a little bit intimidating? Because obviously they had been such a major band in especially the early and mid 80s, hadn't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd seen them live in Belfast, and I was a bit of a fan, So yeah, definitely, it was intimidating.
And what was the kind of the deal? Did they say you're going to be a permanent member, or we're going to have you as a sort of to see how it works out? You're an apprentice for 6 months, or you're on trial?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. Basically, I just used to go in, because I was still working at that stage. So I used to go in whenever I had a day off, and they would be working on new songs. They had just like bits of music and vague ideas that they were doing on the computer. And I just come in and grab a guitar and try and sort of hammering them together into kind of song form. And I think they wanted somebody who could write as well as just sing. They didn't
Right.
just who was like given here's the songs and you sing them. They wanted somebody who would be part of the the songwriting as well. So
Yes.
that was what they were checking out. Really, it wasn't a question like can you hit this note? It was can you make sense of this and can you put lyrics to it and all that. So
God.
that went on. That went on for a couple of months really, and then eventually they turned around and said, "Listen, it's probably about time you give up the job. We'll put you on a wage." So that was the first time I knew I was definitely in.
My God. So was Waterstones, did you give your notice in at that stage?
Yeah, yeah.
My God, you were there. And what was the atmosphere like with the members of the Bunnymen? Did they, because obviously they had been going through an awful lot of changes as well.
Yeah. It
I
was
mean,
great. I mean, Will, Les, Jake, all great fellas, very welcoming, very friendly. And then not long after that, obviously after, well, what I've neglected to mention was, of course, in the middle of all this, just before I was due to have my first rehearsal with them, they had the news that Peter Friedis had been killed on his motorbike.
yes.
Yeah. And when I heard that news, I thought, well, that's it, really, and it was probably about another month after that Will got back and said that he still wanted to do something. So, and then, eventually Jake was sharing a house with this lad called Damon Reese, who was a drummer, and we got him in as well,
Yeah, my God. So did you ever meet Pete?
Not at that time. We played a gig. I said when Vitus came over first to Belfast, we played a gig in a place called the Mardi Gras with a few other bands. And Peter Friedis was at it. And I got chatting to him after the show.
Right.
Very, very briefly. But yeah, that was the only time.
Yes. So when you went to sort of record the album, did you all how did that process work and materialize?
Well, they had a rehearsal room down by the docks in Liverpool, an old warehouse. And we used to go in there like 5 days a week and just work on songs. Sometimes I'd have an idea, sometimes it'd be an idea. It would start from a bass line of Les's. It was basically everybody chipping in ideas, and we just gradually hammer out songs. Some worked, some didn't, and eventually got enough to put an album together. Yeah.
Yes. And was everyone sort of pleased with the album and the work that, the process that happened?
Yeah, I think we all were, at the time, definitely.
And what because you went to, was it Ridge Farm Studios in
That's
Surrey?
right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that a residential place?
Yes, it was, yeah.
So it's a bit like Rockfields, but further south.
Yeah, we were there for about 6 weeks, and then we mixed it in another place called Jacobs, which is another residential studio. We were there for about 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. And was it your producer? That was another Jeff, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, Jeff Emmerich. Yeah.
Emmerich. And what was that like? Was that quite a different experience to what you'd experienced before?
Oh, completely. Yeah. Doing vocals, he was a real perfectionist. You do things 15, 20 times till he got the right take. And even if it was just a backing vocal that was going to be way in the background, he'd want it just right. But he was great, and very patient and, just a nice guy. Yeah.
Yes, because it does have a lot of sort of interest in instrumentation on the album, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who was sort of driving those ideas?
That would have been Will, yeah.
Right.
Will, yeah, I mean, Will, and the different things really, Jake a bit as well, but for example, we got quite a bit of Mellotron on it, and we didn't want to use synthesizers, but we thought that a Mellotron would be all right.
Yes.
And we didn't know where we get our hands on a Mellotron. Aren't that many knocking around, but we asked Jeff Emmerich, did he know anybody who had a Mellotron? And he said he thought he did. And it was, funnily enough, the guy who owned Ridge Farm Studio, he got his money to buy the studio because he was involved in with Mike Oldfield and doing Tubular Bells. That's what he made.
Right.
And it turned out that the old Mellotron from Abbey Road was now in the possession of Mike Oldfield. And he kept it in his garage.
Right.
And so we asked the guy at Ridge Farm, is there any way that he could get in touch with Mike Oldfield and see if we could borrow it? And he said yes. So we drove the van out to Mike Oldfield's place and loaded the Mellotron into the van and brought it to the studio. And I think we used it on about 5 or 6 songs, yeah.
Fantastic. Yes. Yeah. And was everyone pleased with it when you sort of had a playback of it and sort of heard it after, being in the studio?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, because we've been listening to things like, Stones, and, the Beatles and from all of that period. And there was Mellotrons all over the place at that stage. So to hear that sound, again, the string sound and the flute sound, it was really, really good. Yeah.
Yes. And then did you go and tour that album?
We did, yes. We toured that in the winter of 1990. Yeah.
Right. What was that like? What was the audiences like at that stage?
Quite sizable. Pretty much everywhere we went. So probably not as many as they'd been used to, but we were in slightly smaller venues.
Yeah. And did you do tracks on all the early albums as well?
To begin with, yes, because we didn't have enough songs to have a full set on our own, really. So we I think we probably at the height of it probably did about 4 or 5.
Yes.
And then as we wrote more songs, by about a year in, we kind of dropped them all out of the set. Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite. What was it like singing those iconic sort of indie classics from sort of, yes, a different period and also delivered by a different singer?
Oh, it was a bit weird. There's no doubt about it, But all you can do is try and do the songs justice to the best of your ability, really. And
well, yes,
try not to sound like you're imitating the original singer and just do it in your own voice. But I mean, it's one of those no-win situations. If you do sound like him, then you're just a mimic, and if you don't, then it's not just not the same. So you're on a kind of a loser no matter what way.
And did you go abroad as well?
Yes, we did a tour in France, and pretty much all over France. We had gigs in Barcelona, in Montreux. We played one gig in Minsk in a festival.
Nice. And did you go further afield to Asia or the Far East?
No, we never went to Asia. No, that never happened. But we went to America a couple of times.
Blimey. Did you play the East Coast and then move across to the West?
Right across, yeah, from New York down as far as New Orleans and out as far west as Hawaii.
Right. What clubs did you play in on the East Coast?
Let's see now if we can remember the names. I don't think the places that we played are still there. There was some place in the meatpacking district. I remember that.
Right.
In New York. I don't think it's still there anymore. And there weren't any places that that are still venues that I can remember. But I can't remember. To be honest, I can't remember the names.
Mm. And were the audience quite receptive to the band?
Oh, yes, America was great. Yeah, everywhere we went was really good. Yeah.
And how was the album doing at that stage? Did you say you got quite good press for it or good reviews?
I don't know what the reviews were like in America, to be honest. But certainly we got a lot of college radio play.
Right.
And I know it sold quite well, but the problem was we'd already been dropped. By the time it was released in America, it had already been dropped by the record company. So they weren't marketing it at all. So it could have done better, I suppose, if it had a bit of push behind it. But even so, it did quite well. It sold, I can't remember. Somebody told me it sold 60,000 in the States, but I think
that's all right, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Did the band then, after being dropped, start its own label at this stage?
We did, yeah. A little bit later, we started the Euphoric label, and we put 2 singles on that.
Oh, prove me wrong. And Inside Me, Inside You. The March of 1992. Had you started having plans to do a follow-up album at this stage?
Well, certainly we were working on new material. We had about 5 or 6 songs apart from those singles that we were playing live regularly. So we were heading towards it. We hadn't got enough for an album quite yet, but then, fate intervened and the band split up again before we got round to it. Yeah.
I always remember when Stevie Nicks talks about her Fleetwood Mac years. And I mean, she always said, even though they were very successful with Stevie and Lindsey Buckingham, she always felt like she was still a bit of an outsider in the band. What was your sort of relationship and dynamic like with the rest of the band at this stage?
Well, we all got on famously, to be honest. We, band, road crew, everybody. It was just all like mates, really. It wasn't, there was no hierarchy in the band, and there was no, I think there was it was probably very different for Will and Les because they'd been in a band when it was very successful and we were obviously struggling. So it was harder for them to take, I suppose, whereas for me, even though, we weren't, doing that well, it was still a big adventure for me going to America.
Oh God, I would imagine it was definitely a great adventure.
But so we were kind of looking at it from a different angle, really. But having said that, we always got on really, really well.
Yes. Well, that's always nice. It's
good.
I
remember somebody told me that Pete Hook from Joy Division, he came to see us in Manchester, and he wrote in his autobiography that he came into the dressing room and he knew that we weren't doing very well and we'd been dropped from the record company. He came into the dressing room and saw us all together and saw how well we were getting on, and he said that at the time he was really jealous because even though New Order were doing really well at that stage, they weren't getting on together at all.
No, this is the joy of the band, isn't it?
Yeah.
As a fan, you think, God, I'm so envious. They must be living the best life. And then it's like, oh, you all hated each other. And and it was just like the worst, not the worst job in the world, but it wasn't much fun. So, yeah.
That was one aspect of it. It was great. We always got on from start to finish, yeah.
And then when the band decided, was it 93 that the band decided to call it a day?
Yeah.
Was that a surprise, or were you part of a conversation that had mentioned about sort of not continuing?
Well, it had got to the stage where, we toured America, we hadn't got enough money really to run a label ourselves. We weren't getting any interest from any other major record companies. And it was kind of like, I sort of was wondering what was the point of it by that stage. So even before that, I'd been saying to Will, really, at the end of the day, we're not doing very much. Ian McCulloch's not doing very much with his solo career. Probably be in your best interest to get back together again.
Yes, band therapy, I remember.
Yeah. So, and I've been saying that to him for ages. And then eventually, the way I found out was that Will phoned me up and he said, "Do you know the way you're always on me to get back with Mac?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, he said, "Well, I think I'm going to." I said, "Fine, go for it,"
Yes, because I'd gone to see, actually, Mac when he was doing that solo tour. He'd come to the UEA and, yes, that particular album, which I now can't remember what it was called. But, that came out in about 89, didn't it?
Mm.
Anyway,
I know it myself, but
it was a subdued affair. It wasn't, it was because he didn't play anything but his kind of solo stuff, I guess. So then, sort of 93, that was it. It was kind of. So where do you go next in life at this time?
Well, it was a question of trying to earn some money because I've been, pretty broke for a long time. So I had to look about getting a job. I trained as a teacher.
Right.
I already had a degree, so I did a 1-year postgraduate certificate in education and qualified as a primary school teacher, and I did that for 27 years.
It's got to be. Did you stay in Liverpool at this stage?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right, and there you go. And then sort of what's happened then recently? When did you decide to get your band back together?
Well, my original band, Vitus Dance, we'd been asked to play at a festival in Belfast. I think this was 2008.
Right.
Supporting Bid from the Monochrome set.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And because Kevin, who's our guitarist, he was putting together kind of like a scratch band to support Bids, because he was doing this. He was going around various venues, picking up, playing with local musicians, a bit like Chuck Berry, And Kevin was in Bid's band for that gig. And then whoever was organised it suggested that St. Vitus Dance could do the support. So he got in touch with me and said, "Do you fancy doing it as a one-off?" And I said, "Yeah, okay." And the reissue of the CD had happened maybe about 4 or 5 months before that gig.
Right.
So I thought, yeah, it might be a good time. We might shift a few CDs. So we did the gig, and it went really, really well. The response was great. And then we decided we'd, carry it on and see where it took us.
Yes.
And then I think, so I started writing songs again. And Jeff Davis, I'm still very good friends with him, and he said he'd put another album out. And we did. We put an album out then. I think it was 2010, maybe, or 9.
I think, it was. It might have been a bit earlier, actually, because was this recorded at Frog Studios?
That's right. Yeah. It could have been. I think the date's wrong, or maybe it was the gig was earlier. But anyway, we ended up doing 2 more albums. I think the last one was 2013.
So what was the one you did in 08 or 010? What was that called?
Glyphotheque.
Right. There you go. It's done. And Pro Plus. I mean, Jeff obviously must have loved the band.
Oh, he did. Yeah. He was always a big fan. Yeah, always had a lot of.
And what was the response like for the release?
Again, it got quite well reviewed, but again, lack of airplay kind of did for it. Don't think we got played very much at all. So it went the way of all the others.
Yes, it's a hard world, isn't it, really? But you were doing that as a sort of as a hobby compared to your teaching.
It was lovely just as a social thing to be back, because half of the band live in Belfast and half of us are in Liverpool. So we meet up, we play the odd gig in Belfast, on average about once a year. We did the 2 albums, and, but it's good just to get together with your friends, and it's just an excuse for a bit of a social, really.
Yes, actually. So Bystanders is the next one, isn't it, which comes out? And that's actually the album. I like the album cover.
Oh, yes. That was a photograph of Jeff's. Yeah.
Where was that from?
It was one that Jeff had in his collection of photographs. It was one of his friends hanging from a lamppost outside Liverpool Cathedral. Yeah.
That was good. That was a good one, actually. So were you just played the occasional gig as well as writing material, and that was that? Nice. And then that was 2012. So since then, is it just a case, the case of just being in touch, meeting up, occasionally swapping ideas?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I go over to Belfast a lot. I've got family over there, obviously. So I'll go over and see the Belfast lads, and I'll show them whatever new ideas I've got songwriting wise, and they'll work on them, and then we'll meet up again and we'll work all of them together, and eventually, if we got time, we'll record them.
Yes, that's amazing. So what's happening now with the band? Have you got this one-off gig, or have you got several gigs?
No, well, we did. We did a gig about, it must be getting on for nearly 3 years now, in Liverpool, and this fella came up and spoke to me before the gig and said, "Oh, you should play the Reverberation album. You should revive that." And I said, "Oh, well," he said, "if you did, I could get you a gig at Liverpool Philharmonic Music Room." And I said, "Oh, well, I don't know." I said, "I'd have to ask the rest of the band and see if they want to do it."
Yes.
So I didn't think too much of it. Then he got back in touch with me, and I had mentioned it to the band in passing, and they all were actually quite up for it. So when he got back in touch with me again, I said, "Yes, I think we'll have a go. We'll get together and have a rehearsal. We'll try working on some of the songs and see how it goes." So we did, and worked out quite well. They were all learning the songs pretty quickly. So I got back and said, yeah, and we firmed up a date the 29th of November last year. And that's we played in the music rooms in Liverpool. And that was sold out. Couple of hundred in there.
Yes.
Great night. And then because of the response, we decided that we'd do a gig like that, playing the whole Reverberation album in Belfast, and that's coming up this Saturday. And then we also booked one in Glasgow, which is on, I think it's the 3rd of October. And then we're playing Liverpool again on Rough Trade on the 29th of November this year.
Fantastic.
And got the obviously the London gig at West Hampstead Arts Centre on the 20th of this month of September. Yeah.
God, it's all go, isn't it, actually?
Yeah.
But this is the busiest you've been. So is this...
Yeah.
So all this is just going to be reverberations, but...
Yes, these shows are, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't play any other material?
I think at the we play a couple of Vitus Dance songs at the end, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And did the rest of the band, did they learn the songs quite quickly?
Amazingly so, yes. I mean, Kevin, the guitarist, had such a big job in his hand trying to replicate Will's guitar riffs. But he's a real hard worker and a very good guitarist, and you know he's done an amazing job. But they all have really, they've all really put a real stint in.
A shift,
song,
haven't they?
you know?
They've done the business. So if people want to know more about the band, you've got a Facebook page, haven't you?
Yes.
Facebook. Do you have any other places that people can go to find information about the band?
Well, I mean, there's the Vitus Dance Facebook page, and then there's the Noel Burke Reverberation Facebook page as well. So you can look on either of those, really. But that's all there is at the minute, I think.
Yes, that's right. I know, because actually you were in touch, well, Cloudberry, who's that guy in New York, he got in touch with you recently as well, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah, I remember doing that interview. Yeah.
Yes, he's such a nice guy. Actually, he came all
very well, bit like yourself, very well informed.
He is. Well, he came over just to go and see the man from Del Monte, and they reformed. I thought that is dedication.
It is.
A lot of dedication. So once you've got this year out the way, what's your plans for 2026?
Well, I mean, I'd like to do another Vitus Dance album. I mean, we've stuck a couple of tracks on, just single tracks that we've recorded on Spotify and all the other platforms.
Yes.
But we'd like to, we've got a lot of songs, ready to go. I think once we get these gigs over in the new year, I think we'll probably start looking about, working towards an album, just putting a bit more longer studio time and trying to get, batches of 4 and 5 songs done and get an album out again. Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be very nice, actually. Yes. Well, I hope it goes really well. And yes, I'll keep an eye on your various Facebook pages and sort of try and, get it. And I guess you've got all your material archived now, haven't you?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. It's all knocking around somewhere. Yeah.
Did with the Pro Plus stuff, I mean, was it easy to sort of keep a hold of the master tapes and sort of ownership of the music?
Not the master tapes, no. Jeff was a great recycler. So anything that was any sort of 1/4-inch tape that was knocking around very quickly got recorded over. So the master tapes are long gone. Oh yeah. It was all done very much on a shoestring. So forking out for new 1/4-inch tape was a very, very rare thing.
Nice. Well,
I think he might have kept the Half Man Half Biscuit stuff, but nothing else.
Good. God, Half Man Half Biscuit. Yes, well, that's brilliant. Well, look, this has been amazing, Noel. I'll put this out very quickly because obviously you've got quite a lot of dates. But for those who are paying attention, yes, just go to the Facebook pages and you'll find where all this is happening, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And are you still teaching, or have you retired from that?
I retired about 2 years ago, yeah.
You must be so pleased.
Well, it's great to have the time to do this sort of thing now, so it's made it all kind of possible, really.
Well, yes, you can have a bit more brain space to think creative thoughts, really, can't you?
Yeah,
So
back and forward to Belfast to rehearsals and things like that whenever I want to. I'm not stuck at just going at the weekends, you know. So yeah, it's good.
brilliant. Well, look, thanks for your time. This has been amazing, and we got a good internet, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, look, take care of yourself, and all the best for the gigs coming up.
Oh, thank you, David. Cheers.
Take care. See you later.
You too.
Bye.
All the best. Bye now.
That is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Noel for giving me the time for that. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. So if you want to contact me, you can just go to any of the social media platform sites, do C86 show, probably my name, that helps. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Check them out. Take care. Have a great week.